Good afternoon and welcome to the final session of our summit, and I think this one's going to be very entertaining and very educational. And we have a couple guys that serve on the section teaching committee that are very renowned instructors in their own right, very creative, a little bit out of the box, and I think you can get a lot of this because it's going to be a little bit different. So let me introduce first Mr. Bill McKinney. Bill is the founder and lead instructor of the Swing Fit Golf Academy based at Marbella Country Club. Excuse me. He played collegiate golf at UCSB from '84 to '89, Metro Chapter Stroke Play Champion in '92, and qualified for the PGA Tour AT&T National Program in 1995. Bill's been a PGA member since 1993, and he is the only, at least that we know up to this point, instructor who is certified both in the golf machine and the impact zone, which in and of itself is pretty impressive. Again, he is a very active member of this teaching committee, has done a number of presentations for the section, and please welcome Bill McKinney. Brady Riggs, as you heard, received some props yesterday from Randy Smith. Brady's the director of instruction at Woody Lakes Golf Course in Van Nuys. He's been named one of Golf Magazine's top 100 teachers since 2007, Golf Digest top 50 in state. He's a senior instructor editor at Golf Tips Magazine and has contributed over 100 articles and cover stories for the magazine. Randy was alluding to that yesterday. He didn't give the name of the magazine, but I do subscribe to that magazine. It's primarily to read what Brady has in it. He just does an unbelievable job, writing articles and doing swing analysis. His students include players of all levels, including members of the Tour, the Champions Tour, Division I College, elite amateurs, and countless up-and-coming juniors. A couple of his students include Danielle Kang, who is a two-time U.S. women's amateur champion and now playing on the Tour. And I just got this other one. Number 2 ranked NCAA men's player, a U.S. amateur semifinalist from Cal Berkeley, Brandon Hagee. His reputation attracts players from all over the world. Please welcome Mr. Brady Riggs, and I will turn the presentation over to the Bill and Brady Show.
It's nice to be in the shade. Can y'all hear us? Are we turned on? Mic'd up?
Hello.
All right. How was that last bit with the flight scope? Did y'all learn about the ball flight laws and how a ball behaves in the air and how a club, the interaction, the collision physics and all that? I love that stuff. If you've had a chance to see me talk before, I always start off with that. I think it's very important to understand for us experts how a ball behaves in the air. So, if I can just start with this first thing and be done with it, since I always this itch that I got to scratch. Whenever you hear the word side spin, it's not a ball going like that. It's ball back spinning with a tilted spin axis. You've all got that. I just got to get that off my chest. Thank you. The ball horizontal spin axis goes straight. When it goes this way, it goes that way, and so on. So that's the side spin, the tilted spin axis. I'm sure they did a heck of a job explaining that. I was driving frantically to get here. I didn't make it. I showed it down. Brady, it's an honor to teach up here at U-Pro.
Yes.
He and I are veterans of Southern Cal PGA Junior Golf. We played a couple tournaments together. I remember his red hair and the name Brady Riggs. He doesn't have a great memory about that back then. I'm not a memorable member of the SC.
Apparently not.
Yes. But anyway, you're 47 also?
No.
Oh, you're a little younger than I am. 45, that's right. No wonder you didn't know.
Don't date me.
All right. Well, I was held back a few grades, Anyway, so Brady, I know you use a flight scope. How do you use it? How are you using tech in your teaching business?
I started investigating flight scope TrackMan probably a year and a half ago. Last year I went to PGA Show with my student Jeff over there, and we went through and had conversations with everyone that has some sort of launch monitor, whether it was the Foresight or the TrackMan flight scope, and we decided to go with the flight scope. Primarily, I did it because I didn't know enough about it, and I hate being out of a conversation. I don't like to hear somebody say something about golf that I don't know the subject matter. So I wanted to get educated. And I've been using it now for about a year, and I think that there's a place for it for sure. But it's difficult if you teach in the real world, because if you're using a range ball, a lot of the numbers that are coming out of the flight scope are they're a little misleading. You know, as soon as the ball is being measured in some way, whether it's spin, launch angle, smash factor, carry distance, whatever it is, and you have a range ball, those numbers are skewed. So it becomes more about the club itself rather than what the ball is doing. And that's a significant issue. So fortunately with FlightScope, you can use it off the grass a little easier than you can TrackMan. And I think that if I have it on all the time, I use it all the time, probably the number of lessons I'm actually looking at the numbers is probably around 20%. And of those 20% of the lessons I do use the FlightScope in the lesson, I probably use it 20% of the time. So while it's on all the time, I'm not seeing it on every shot and checking the numbers and spewing them off to my student, because a lot of them, you know, it just goes over their head anyway. So while I find it to be really helpful, I don't think that it's the end-all be-all in teaching. I still think you have to teach. So,
Double check. If you see an outlier shot, you might check and see what happened. Here's why that happened.
right.
Jeff, your face was X open or whatever.
I think, you know, I've seen your notes about impact tape and dry erase pens, and you know, that's a place where you can really see the difference with having a launch monitor, because if you see a shot off the toe and it curves a certain direction, you know, if you didn't have the FlightScope and you didn't see the numbers and you didn't have the face tape or a dry erase pen, you may be assuming something about the ball flight that really wasn't true. So in terms of education, I think it's phenomenal. I think if you want to reach the highest levels in terms of helping your players, you need to know the information, but whether or not you have it on all the time and you're using it in every lesson, I don't think it's necessary. The one thing I do love to use it with is, especially with my players that are competing, they'll actually bring their own golf balls to the range. And if we use the driver, then they'll hit their own balls out there so that we can actually see the numbers for the ball. And then we use it a lot with the wedges, which is something I really like to do, and I'll talk about a little bit later. The carry distances with the wedges are phenomenal with having the actual FlightScope there. So,
Call it gapping.
yeah, just trying to kind of, you know, go into more detail in a bit, but just learning how to different yardages on the fly with the same club, hitting different trajectories, that's a huge part about scoring that we work on all the time. So, Billy, what's your experience with the FlightScope? I know you have access to it.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. My good friend John Ortega's here. He's sort of a teaching partner of mine. We have a sharing this sort of golf academy concept, and he's got one, proud owner of one. I've got 3 places within 10 minutes of me where I can go and use one if I just make a phone call. I don't own one personally. I probably will get one soon, I imagine. And it'll be one of the 3 launch monitors. And I'm leaning towards FlightScope. I've spent, I don't know, more than 100 hours on it, and it was really one of those changing things to understand exactly the collision stuff and how I think of the down, how much that affects the flight, the trajectory, the start line. You know, you hit more down, you're hitting more out, you've got to adjust. Things like that. That was something that wasn't necessarily intuitive, that you needed a little more nitty-gritty from the radar to see. And I use a few other things too. I'm going to talk about 3D on a budget. There's some really great 3D stuff out there, like what's it, K-Vest, and maybe y'all have some experience with that. Anyone here work in golf tech? No golf techers? Oh, I'm sorry, over there? Cool. So you guys using K-Vest?
No, K-Vest, we have our own motion analysis equipment.
Yeah, okay. So stuff like that, you know, you go down to TaylorMade, they put you on some stuff, and it's called, what do they call it thing, AMM? Or MAT system, yeah. So there's a few different things out there now where they're really measuring, like, your exact things that you can't see. You can't see it in video. You can't see it with your bare eyes. You can look and go, that looked really good. That looked just a little smoother or something. But if you've got these little sensors, you can go, well, that was this, and the other one was that. So you have a little base to go off, and we'll get into that in a bit here. So I recommend, whether you get one or not, is anyone from FlightScope, the representative, still here? Love your products, man. All right, and definitely spend some time, find a way to spend some hours on it and get all that down. It's huge. It'll help you a lot. It'll help your students most.
Can I ask, how many of you guys are using TrackMan or FlightScope now with your lessons on a regular basis? 1, 2,
3.
So I think Alan and I were talking about this before. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a FlightScope or a TrackMan to see what happened with the ball flight. You know, it's not really the case. It just gives you more detailed information, and it does help you understand, like Billy said, if you're hitting more down, the path is more to the right, how does that affect it? I was listening to the presentation before, and Jeff and I were commenting on the fact that the driver was 2 degrees down in the example they were using, and they said to make it 5 degrees up because it'll optimize distance. Well, that's great. You know, I wish it was that easy to change the angle of attack 7 degrees. It isn't. And if you do change the angle of attack 7 degrees, you're going to change the path 7 degrees as well. They're on your basic 45-degree angle. So 7-degree change in swing path is significant. So if that's all you change, and you go from 2 down to 5 up, and you don't change the path to accommodate for that, you're going to have a player's path go way left. And that's the interesting part in learning how the numbers work and the combinations of them. I think that's the benefit of FlightScope. It gives you just or TrackMan. They're both great products. I think the FlightScope is better because it's cheaper, significantly cheaper. You can buy 2 FlightScopes for 1 TrackMan.
You can use it on the grass.
Yeah, and you can use it on the grass easier. So, I mean, for me, I don't see any reason why anybody would ever buy a TrackMan over a FlightScope, but it is a different color. So that's important.
It is a great brand, though, out there, too. And that's probably my next question. Brady, you've built a brand. I mean, your Brady Riggs Golf is a brand. RedGo.com. Do you have that website?
I do. I still
All right.
have that website.
We wanted to give us a little talk about branding, and that's part of our topic today.
I have had absolutely no intention of branding myself in any way, shape, or form. I just like to teach. And so any success I've had is because I really try to get information and help my students. The rest of it is just sort of happened over time in terms of publications and writing articles and having a website. But, you know, when I talk to teachers that are trying to establish themselves, I tell them all the same thing, which is just help people. You know, if you can get people better at playing the game, they're going to tell their friends, and you're going to get more clients, and the ball will start rolling downhill, and things will happen to yourself. You know, the reason why I wear sweats and a t-shirt, I'm actually dressed up significantly today. If any of you see me on the range, you know, but it's because I am lazy and I don't want to wear a pair of pants. It's not because I'm trying to be obnoxious. It's easier for me to wear sweats. And I'm usually going to soccer practice afterwards. So for me, it's just my thing that I do, and I'm at a public course, so fortunately I can get away with that a little bit easier. But in terms of the branding part, for me, it's always been about the quality. You know, it's just purely about the quality. I'm only concerned with being the best teacher I can be, and if I do that, I know I'm going to help my players, and everything will work out for me.
Nice to be in a situation like that, you know, like he's like the Hugh Hefner of golf coaches in a way. Like he's in his robe out there chilling. You play reggae music too, is that right?
Yes.
How cool is that? So when I first heard that, I thought, what? And then I started thinking about it. If I showed up to a lesson and, like, you know, my pro's kind of more in a chill atmosphere, I might be more inclined to be relaxed, which the science says if you're relaxed and you're feeling good, you can learn more easily than when you're stressed out. And we're going to talk about, you know, body language and lording over your students and feeling, especially the kids, and standing there and your body language being so important. So I've kind of adopted a couple things from Brady. I mean, I work at Marbella Country Club, and I got to be a little more zipped up and ironed and all that stuff. But, you know, I've borrowed some ideas from Brady's concept there. I'm probably a little more, I don't want to call it a prostitute, that's not the right word. I use social media a little bit. I'll get on Facebook and post some before and after pictures. I play that game a little bit. It's what they want, and I always, if you've ever heard me speak before, I always talk about there's what they want and then there's what they need, and they're usually not the same. But you got to go through the what they want door. And so what they want to see pictures, they want to see videos. I'll do the videos of them. Like, they send it to me. Okay, I mean, what do they do when they go home? Oh God, I look fat. Oh geez, my swing's terrible. I don't want my guys thinking that. Especially don't want my good players thinking that. You know, and like the women too. They don't like doing that. I'd rather send them before and after pictures with like some really dramatic difference, like they're coming over or whatever. But I just try to get them off of stop fondling your swing at home. You know, that doesn't sound right. Sorry. Anyway, so branding. The question is, I signed up for Twitter. I didn't really do much. I did a couple little things. Facebook, I definitely do. It's huge. I have a group of my better players that get a Gmail, like inspirational, or if I find something really helpful, I'll hit them with it, get a little interaction with it. So that's what I'm doing branding wise. You know, I guess there's more and more. You're all a brand. If you're a teacher, you have a brand. And part of your brand, I mean, like, part of my brand is I like learning aids and toys. And I said this to one of my students who's 16. I go, it's a learning aid. She goes, no, it's toys. Toys are cool. Toys are fun. Call them toys. I guess I kind of agree with that. You learn with toys. And we'll talk about organic learning in a bit. So I usually have, I said I don't want to look like Sanford and Sons. junkyard. But I like to have some stuff where people know that's where the learning is going on down there, with wherever Bill is, and I'm usually on one end of my range or the other, and I've got the big swing ring. So your image is important. So that's we could talk on and on about your brand, and maybe, I've done some writing, I've done some golf DVDs that a marketing company has sent all around the world, and I get a little, I get like 10% of the sales, and I'm still getting checks that I did 10 years ago. And it was, Bill mentioned the golfing machine. You still hear me? Oh yeah? Okay. And I did these sort of de-jargonizing the golfing machine. Ooh, hot mic. De-jargonizing the golfing machine, making it useful like in normal language, which has kind of been the direction I've gone with that, which is why I also like Clampett's impact zones as well. How about that? All right, so anyone else have any really cool stuff you're doing for branding? We're going to start interacting you guys here in a minute, but we got a couple questions to get out of the way. But is there anything someone really has to get off their chest about what you're doing to brand? No? Bill?
I got personalized alignment sticks and give them out to students.
Very nice.
You can buy them in bulk, but you get your own name and logo on it, and they stay in their bag forever with your phone number, email, and all that.
Yeah, you guys probably have all seen this by now. This is John Ortega's not the Truth Board. It's the, what do you call this?
The putting alignment trainer.
PAT.
Yeah.
It's the other PAT.
I call it an expensive business card.
Yeah, there you go.
Because kids see
John
other
Ortega.
kids using them. They go, where do you get that? And say, John Ortega, tell me a lot of my buddy and go see him. So I'm getting kids from Pasadena, from Claremont, from all different places around just college birdies because of that. So just have my name laying on that board. It's brought me some business.
Maybe some of you heard this already. I caddied for Fred Funk last week at Fry's, and I'm going to spend some time caddying for Fred Funk this year on both tours. He's sort of a good bud. He's become a good friend of mine, and maybe Bobby Clampett as well. And I had both those guys on the putting green at the PGA. Well, at the PGA Tour event, it was Fred because he was playing the Fry's, and he really liked it. And the other guys were coming up, and so you got something that where your name's on it, a little stick in their head. Did you send it to Fred yet?
No, send it today.
Okay. So anyway, that's John's thing. Something cool with your name that get your players, your customers, your clients thinking about you, your name all the time. So, all right. Hey Brady, what are your feelings about TPI and other fitness stuff?
TPI. I like fitness stuff on a personal level for myself. I've messed around with different things like P90X and some other stuff for my own.
Shows.
Thank you. For my own health and well-being.
You should have seen it before.
It's true. I was a little bigger. But the thing is that, and I go back and forth on this. I like the Smart Flex. I think that thing's cool because it's easy. And if I just asked a question, how many of you guys have been to a screening, a TPI screening for yourself? Okay, so out of the people that have gone, do you guys get a program worked up, that you guys can use? Are you still using those today on a regular basis? Periodically. So like not one person here is doing it. So, I see that as the reality of fitness. In that people aren't going to do it for their own health. Why in the world are they going to do it for golf? For the rest of their life. It's probably not going to happen. So while I know there's a benefit for it, I know that it helps people, the reality is people don't do it. They're just not going to do it. So to try and tell a student that I can't help them until they become more flexible and strong or whatever it is, that's not realistic. Most people are not going to spend the time to go down and get the screening, get the program, and even if they did that and they started it for a week or a month, chances are in 2 or 3 months they're off, they're done, they're finished with it. So I don't see that as an avenue that's going to help the vast majority of players at all. Now I have competitive players and they are all doing some form of fitness, and some of them is more golf specific, and others don't do any golf specific stuff. But they're doing something all the time because they're trying to practice more in their career and avoid injury. But the average guy that I have on my range, they're not doing fitness. It's just not happening. So I'm not going to spend any of my time with them forcing them into it, knowing that they're not going to do it. I think that side of the business is, in my opinion, a little overrated. I don't think it's helping that many players, and so I don't force my players into it at all, especially the ones that are doing, they're playing golf recreational. I just don't see it as that big of an advantage.
Except for our sponsors, of course, Orange Whip Trainer and the stick.
Oh, but
Those are the
are
best ever.
But the cool thing about an Orange Whip Trainer or a Swing or the Smart Flex, wow,
Tell
is
me about
that the cool thing about those is that they're easy to use. You can put those in your bag and spend 10 minutes before you stop, loosening up and getting yourself in a better place to play. It doesn't require you to have an exercise ball out there, dumbbells, bands, whatever else things that you're using, and go through a whole program. I mean, a little bit goes a long way when it comes to that kind of thing. So for me, I don't push it at all. My good players, I'm smart enough to know that I know a little bit about it, which is dangerous, so I usually send them out. And that's true when it comes to equipment. It's true when it comes to sports site. I use Rick's testing house for that, and Rick's great. The things that I don't know that much about, or that I just know a little bit about, I'm always sending out to different places. I think it's better to give them to an expert than to give them to me who just knows a little bit. Because if they're serious enough to do it, then I want them to go to somebody who's serious about that side of the business. But from TPI standpoint, you know, if I was hiring teachers at an academy, I would, if I saw a TPI level certification, I think it would be nice, but it certainly wouldn't be a requirement for me. I'd rather have a guy have 2,000 hours on the range teaching players of all different levels than to go to a TPI certification. It's not that I don't respect it. I think it's great. I think the information is fantastic. But for the average player, I mean, just those of us in here that are not doing a program, nobody in here is currently active in a program. It just seems to me like it's a waste of time.
I do my Swing Fit golf program.
There you go.
As you can see, I like the toys. I bought a couple things. If you'll direct your attention right over between those two cards is something called a slack line. And part of our branding thing is I set this up between two trees, and it's basically a tightrope, and I put it where I teach, and kids just love it. And some of you are probably Facebook friends with me already, and I once in a while post me walking on it or bouncing or doing a little turn or something. It's basically like tightrope walking, but it's got slack in it, and it's 2 inches wide. And unfortunately, I couldn't quite get a spot where it would hold so that my heavy weight pulls the cart down. But I promise you, Facebook friend, you'll get to see some video of me walking on that. I do use other things. Balance is a really big, important part to me. I mean, you know, flexibility, all this stuff, right? I mean, like, it's all important. It's all, to some degree, really important. Balance is a big thing. It turns out, once the human animal stood up and the brain went, whoa, it's really far down there to the ground. It didn't like it at all, but okay, you're getting the knack of walking, and sometime, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, like pretty good swing or swing on the range, and then the dude that does that, I know I've done it a time or two. It turns out that's part of your brain having a in-swing panic attack and fear of falling. And so I use these things like a skateboard. If any of you were at the Jamie Mulligan and Eddie Merritt's, was anyone here for that? That was really great, wasn't it? It was inspirational. Jamie kind of threw out there, I bet I'm the only one with a skateboard in his trunk, and I went like, not so. I travel with my skateboard. If I see a cool hill, if I have the time. You know, I'm not married. I have no kids, so I'm my own kid, right? So this thing here, I'm good friends with a fellow who I'm surprised he's not even here, Rob Mottram. I shouldn't throw him under the bus like this. Yeah, you know Rob. He traveled with the PGA Tour fitness van like for like years, and now he's in the LPGA. And I'm not throwing him under the bus. He said to me, this one gadget here. Is anyone a TPI person here? Like way up in there? No, okay, TPI? No. Okay, he said, okay, and he goes, hey, you know, if they just had this one thing, that would probably, if you just did this was all they really need. So this is an exerciser. Maybe you've all seen this. Some guys are traveling with it. And as far as fitness goes, I've had this thing like 10 years. I'm still doing it. And it's a sprint machine, it's a balance machine, it's a core machine. This is kind of why I'm able to walk on that slack line. And the bouts are like 20 seconds. So why don't you get a picture of this and I could like get a free one or something. No, but maybe you've all, anyone ever seen this before? If you've seen it, raise your hand. Yeah, you've all mostly seen it. So anyone own one? Anyone still using one after a long time? Look at that, all his hands stayed up. I'm the same way. Like you get a treadmill or whatever, and you hang your laundry on it, and you don't use it. And like we live in California, why would you have a treadmill anyway? But sprinting, I think it's a huge thing about once you grow up, you start slowing down. You stop sprinting. When we were kids, we'd play ball and we'd sprint as fast as possible, even just for like 2 seconds or 5 seconds. And I think we grow up and why do I not hit it as far? I'm 50 now. Why have I lost power? When was the last time you sprinted? right? This is a chance to sprint without tearing your hamstrings or whatever. I'm into this thing. It does a few other things. I could show you, the push-up situation, all that. And as you all saw, look, and I'm not selling it. It's just a thing. Another toy I love. It's kind of the biggest fitness gadget that I love. Check out this guy.
Bill, where's that? Where do you find that? What's the name of it?
Exciser.
Exerciser.
If you give me you must know Rob, Jim, yeah. Okay, but yeah, he's kind of involved in it still.
Okay.
The guy who invented this was the kind of the grandfather of biomechanics. His name's Juris Terraz, and he also invented the Stairmaster. But he's like, that's for lame people who don't know how to do it, who need something to hold on to, right? So this is basically the real Stairmaster. Is that what it's called? So I do crazy stuff like that. I try. I don't know. It's part of brand. I just like playing. I think play is lost too. Taking this all too serious.
The one thing I'd say about fitness is, and this is something FlightScope proves every day, is that the ball could care less how big you are. It makes no difference. If the face is open and the pass going this way, the ball's not going to go at the target. It's not going to go very far. So you have to work around the player's fitness every day. I'm sure you guys do it even as players, right? I know I do, because my back hurts and my knees bad, and we all work around it. But in terms of working with a student, they're on the range. I'm concerned about the club and how the club is interacting with the ball first and foremost. And the fitness stuff is great if they'll do it, fantastic. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't see it happening.
that's why I try to find things that are fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun. That's been. You all know what P90X is, I imagine by now. Yeah, the dude that invented it is Tony Horton. And recently, I had this friend who was a personal trainer. And she went to this fitness conference. They call it the IDEA conference in LA, and he's the keynote speaker. And he walked, 1,000 people up there. Who here's heard of Slackline? And she said, 3 hands go up. And let me ask that: who here's heard or seen of Slackline other than my buddies? Yeah, okay, good. Some of you, 10, cool. And he goes, when this is over, go buy one. It's the coolest thing. It's the best. This is the guy who invented P90X. It's the best workout I ever had in my life. Incredible. He goes, it took me like a month to get really good at it, but it's so fun. And I've had it for a couple of years now, and I'm just getting to where I can kind of bounce and maybe do a turn, but walk backwards, and it's really fun. And then I know most of you aren't going to do it. It's kind of crazy out there, but some of you might. And so I thought I'd bring it, and I'd hoped it would hold, but I got to lose a pound or two. Next thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to go straight to the coaching of soccer. Brady's also a full-time soccer coach. How's that changed you as a teacher, Brady? How's that improved you?
It's aged me considerably as I coach high school girls. The thing that's interesting about it actually makes me appreciate teaching golf too, a ton. But in developing a player in another sport, I've gone through the process now of being that guinea pig too, because while I'm showing something, I haven't been playing soccer my whole life. I've played quite a bit of it, but I'm not as technically skilled as I am in this sport. So having to demonstrate can be nerve-wracking, if you're not really good at it. So I've had to improve my own skills to become a better coach. And so I'm going through the learning process again too in another sport, which is fun.
Are you going to slalom here for us with the ball?
Probably not.
Okay.
But the one thing I would say is that, and this is true in any sport, there's 2 segments to really becoming great at the sport. One of them is the technical skill of the sport. In soccer, that's controlling the ball at your feet, being able to trap a ball out of the air, dribble, pass, all of those things. And then there's the tactical skills of playing the game, which is what formation you play, how you create scoring opportunities, how you defend. Golf's very similar to that. If I had a player whose club face is in a bad position and the path stinks and their weight's on the back foot, I can speak to them all day about course management, and it's not going to help them. Developing the technical skill first, and then learning how to play the game after that is a pretty valid way to do it. Because if I have technical skill, it opens me up to play the game. If I can't control a ball that's coming at me in soccer and it's bouncing off my foot, I have no way to really see the game at another level because I'm just trying to control the ball. Golf's the same way. If I can't make good contact, how can I really enjoy playing the game and learning the strategy? So the 2 aspects of it, the technical aspect of the sport that you're playing and the tactical part of it, which is learning how to play the game at a high level, those 2 have to come together. And if you're not working as a teacher on both of them with your more advanced players, then you're doing them a disservice if you're just on the technical side. And the same is true if you're dealing with a beginner or a player who's just starting. If you're just talking about tactical stuff, about how to play, but you're really not helping them hit the ball better or be better technically, you're doing them a disservice. It's always the blend. That's always the fun part, is trying to figure out with the person standing in front of you, how much of the technical am I going to do? How much of the tactical am I going to do? You know, and finding where that hole is in their game, because often they don't know. You know, I mean, I'm sure you've had people that come and they think something's wrong with their game, and it really may not be the case.
I'm a really good putter.
Yeah, Barry and I were talking about, I've worked with her daughter a little bit, and she's a fabulous player, but the area of her game she needed the most work, which of course Barry knew, but her daughter didn't want to admit, was on the wedges. And when we got that part of her game to be the focus, and she's worked really hard on her, the scores came down. So yeah, there's a technical aspect of hitting a wedge shot, but there's also when to use certain clubs, you know, how to fly to different heights, you know, when to try to land on the front edge of the green, what club to use. Those are all the tactical parts. So the blending of the two is something that soccer's opened my eyes up to a little bit more, which has been great. And it also, like I said, makes me appreciate doing one person at a time instead of having a class of 58 girls at one time, which is amazing.
Did you catch that? It turns out, well, it was a TPI thing. The powers that be in TPI said soccer is actually the very best carryover sport to golf. Like, did you ever hear that?
No, I haven't heard that.
I kind of thought that maybe it's sort of confirmation bias, and that like the most coordinated kids stick with soccer, because I know that when I was playing soccer, I'm lame, I'm out of here, I'm going to go do something I can kind of do. You know, and then I think the kids that stay with soccer, but they say that soccer is the best, and they estimate it's maybe because of the disassociation, is that the word? You know, the ability to move your upper body and lower body, and you know, the way kids are moving multidimensionally. And then the kick is sort of a lower body swing, really, in a way, or a throw. Can't wait to talk about throwing. I think that's probably, you know, we'll probably get into our, before I forget this was kind of a hit. I got to talk, if I can jump ahead to something. I'm not a coach of another sport other than maybe slacklining with my friends. This was something like we've seen, y'all have probably seen where they talk about, oh, a really long hitter does this, we like this is a, you know, that's our opinion, a preference or something, and there's a way of showing this up force power, or fancy words, or parametric acceleration, by doing this. And if I pull that up, that accelerates my club greatly. And this is not about coaching. This is something I have to, another itch I have to scratch. If I pull it up, that made my club go fast at the bottom. Okay, so if I can go, well, this is my preference. That's really my preference. I want to hit a long. They just had the Remax long drive. I want to say 100% of them go. Especially like Jamie Sadlowski, who's about like smaller than I am, and he gets 400 yards and pulls that thing up like you've never seen. A question I think about this, we'll start getting into more of the golf stuff now. You've all seen this, like especially on the LPGA, or like every 6-year-old on the planet, when they hit, they sort of get up on their toes, right? You've all seen that. Would you try to stop that? Would anyone try to stop that, or trying to stop it? I used to try to stop it. That was a mistake. I was right out of college. I thought, that can't be right. You're on your toes. That's no good. I learned pretty early on, don't try to stop that. That's about, so the LPGA players might be there because they allow themselves to jump. You got any talk about the jump?
Well, I'm just saying that if you look at tour averages in terms of angle of attack, which is, you know, with the PGA Tour player, it's down still with the driver. At least last time I saw. I'm sure they could correct me if FlightScope, that's not the case now, but last I saw it was still the negative 1.5 down with the driver on the PGA Tour. But on the LPGA Tour, it's 3 up. And so the ladies that are on the LPGA Tour are taking that handle and it's going up more through impact, which is making the angle of attack more up and more positive. And so they're getting the maximum they can out of their driver speed. The guys on tour, it doesn't really matter if you're swinging it at the speeds that they're swinging it at. If it's 1 down or 1 up, who cares? You know, I have a student of mine who's at Bill mentioned him before, Brandon, who plays for Cal. His average driver club hit speed's 126 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. You know, if he's 1 down, 0.5 down, 0, who cares? It's going 320 in the air. It doesn't make a bit of difference. And I would never try to take him into a positive angle of attack because he hits it straight at 1 down or negative 5 down. So it doesn't matter to that player, but to the guys that we teach on a regular basis, you know, if they're coming out to the range and their club head speed is at, you know, 95, 94, which we see all the time, that's a player I want to get him on the up, and that's where the handle going up through impact would be great, not only for the speed, but also to create a positive angle of attack. And you can't see without flight scope. You can guess at it, and you can look at it.
You
and it's tough to
can get
see
a
it.
great camera really close down by the ball.
You get a phantom camera
Yeah.
into it, but it's not going to happen.
If you got a really good Casio that'll go 2,000-3,000, you can see it. You could get pretty close to tell. You can't say that's 2, 3, or 4 degrees,
Sure.
but you can tell if it's going up or down.
And you can tell too by the contact on the face. You know, generally if they're hitting the top of the face, then they're not hitting up on it as much.
Yeah.
And you can see it on the way the and after you've done it long enough, you can get fairly good at guessing at it. But I can tell you, I can't guess within a degree and a half or two, one way or the other, where they are. I'm still guessing. I don't know for sure.
Zach?
Zach.
Yeah, what are some of the drills you guys use, to encourage that, with that 90-mile-an-hour swinger?
It depends on building one. Outside, you want.
I got a hill by again where I go and I'll have them lean on the hill and swing up the hill so they can see it brushing the grass upward, and I'll try to, hey, this is your driver, this is the one club maybe other than your putter where it's optimal to hit up on it, so let's explain the difference. And then so set up.
Yeah, I would say that is definitely where I would go with setup. You can change angle of attack pretty fast by changing setup position, but like I said before, with the example of 2 down to 5 up, if I just change setup and I made the stance wider and I put the ball more forward and I created more right side tilted address, I'm definitely going to create a positive angle of attack, but I'm also going to probably create a left path. So to compensate for that, I'm going to have to aim the player's feet slightly right at the target and do some other things based on the shots that they're next hitting, the next 3 or 4 shots, to see, okay, I'm changing the angle of attack, but what have I done to the ball flight in the process? And it can be a significant difference in distance. I mean, an enormous difference. I've had guys that come out there trying to play on the next levels, and they'll be. I had one guy that was -4.5 down with the driver, that's seriously down. And the ball flight is really low and it's not carrying very far. And this guy's complaint is, I don't hit it far enough to compete. My club head speed isn't high enough. And his club head speed was actually at tour average. It was like 114. So it had nothing to do with the speed, but just the way he was making contact with the driver. Now, I could see it without flight scope, but without seeing the numbers, it's not as strong kind of a message to the guy.
Yeah, you
to
couldn't
say,
go
hey,
4.5
here's
down,
where you are.
dude.
You're down 4.5.
What?
So let's change it. So we changed it by changing the stuff we said and set up, ball position, forward, feet further apart, right side tilt, encouraging him to hit up, all the mental things that we try and get him to do, aimed his feet right. He actually dropped down in club head speed about 1.5 miles when we changed it, but he carried it 25 yards further because his angle of attack went to pop.
He got
too.
less spin and rolled it a little more.
Yeah, and the carry's bigger. So it's cool that you can change just on that one thing. As his players come in with the driver, they can have the speed to hit it a lot further, but if they're not getting the handle to work its way up through impact and the clutch going down, that one thing can change the distance significantly. That's probably the coolest thing I've seen out of flight scope, out of everything, is being able to change that one number and seeing the difference in distance. It's amazing.
How about let's get a little action going. John, you want to crack your back and make a few swings here? Whatever. Yeah, John, come on up here. Just, and you guys actually can both. We can ask these questions. We got a few questions for you, like kind of a survey situation here. And we'll ask them while their guys are hitting. And first of all, back to the health and fitness thing. I'm really huge on hydration, especially coaching my players. Here, Fred, take water, drink. It's easy for a player just to forget to drink water. You get on your thing, your mouth's dry, and you just keep grinding it out. You start losing your hydration, and you're not going to perform like you expect to or should. Drink your water. Everyone take a sip. Come on. This is my good friend and longtime golf buddy, John Levitt. He stepped in and last night at the last minute I was going to have Josh Anderson, who just made it through the first stage of tour qualifying, and then went and jumped on a trampoline last night with his brother and broke his ankle. So, dum. So John stepped in at the last minute. Everyone give John a hand here. Just a quick bio, John played the 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. He was kind of the 10 Cup. They wrote a little story about him. He's 50 now. We're getting ready for the Champions Tour qualifying. He's been winning everything. You've only lost one amateur tournament, right? Since you played in? Since you were 50? Yep. He's tearing them up. He's one of those skins game legends, and I played with him for 30 years, and he's about 10 million under par for all those rounds I played. Maybe exaggerating a little, but don't let this guy play in your skins game, or don't bet with him. Let me just tell you. John, why don't you just get hitting a little bit, and then just go ahead and loosen up any way you want. Is there a way to get a few more golf balls? Whoever's running this show?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great. You know, we've got a few questions about. Is the grip a fundamental? Does anyone think the grip is a fundamental? What's fundamental about it? Should we have a strong grip? Should we have a neutral grip? Is the grip a fundamental? Preference? But as long as you hold it, right? If you got to hold on to it, you can't not hold it, I guess. Just go ahead and spot a few out there, John. We'll talk about it. Yeah, I like Zach Johnson's grip, and I like Josh Broadway's grip too. Everyone know who Josh Broadway is, the left-hand low golfer on the Champion Tour. That guy's lifetime stroke average is 70.89 on the Champions, the nationwide, or what they call the web.com tour. He hasn't been on the tour yet, but he's under 71. He's got a cross-handed grip. I teach one little kid for about 10 years now with a cross-handed grip. And his dad, first day, said, change him. And every lesson, can we change him yet? I'm like, no way. And I see him on video. I mean, the kid was super pure. Now he's a good little golfer. And his brother's trying to be good. And the kid hardly plays, and he kicks his butt, and he plays cross-handed. Anyway, that's just the first thing. John, just whatever. One of the things I've helped John, or like, I helped John. I explained to John, like, a la flight scope stuff. John's divots have always gone a little left, and you might talk about that a little, John, about, you know, like, you always worried that wasn't right. Even though you hit lasers on the target, you kind of thought, I must be doing something wrong. My divots are going left.
Yeah, I remember playing on the mini tours, and you go down the line, and there's so many good swings. Better swings on the mini tours than on the PGA Tour, believe it or not, because they're all kind of cookie cutter. They all want to look like whoever the great player was at the time. Once you get to the PGA Tour, these guys are unique. You know, they have taken what they've learned from childhood and just stuck with it. They didn't mold themselves into somebody else, and I think that's why even now maybe a little more of the guys are starting to look similar, you know, to Tiger or, you know, Adam Scott. It's hard to distinguish them if you blur your eyes. You see the swing; they look kind of similar, but you still get Jim Furyk's and Zach Johnson's and Bubba's and totally unique golf swings. But when I was out on the mini tours, I would watch these guys just taking these perfect little divots, dollar bill divots, straight at their targets, and all my divots were a little deeper and a little more left of my target, and it made me sick. I couldn't do what these guys were doing, and yet I was probably the straightest ball striker out there. But for some reason, in my twisted way of thinking, it had to be wrong. You know, all these guys were doing it one way, and I was doing it some way different. And now I found out I was the one doing it the right way, and
They were doing it differently. Like, that was also a good way to control the ball. You know, how about this one, Brady? You might get this, like, maybe girls especially, or people come down halfway and their left arm's elbows sort of bent, and they might even be like Retief Goosen or Olazabal. You know, they get this left arm bent. If you show that out on video, they're like, oh God, I hate that, fix that. I'm like, here, these dudes are doing it. They're Masters champions. Don't fix it. It's great. You get that one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Westwood, the other guy.
Yeah, Westwood. I mean, these are some of the greatest ball strikers who ever lived. And they get the elbow bent, like as if this is the only way to play. No way. You can still strike the ball nicely. That's my mission or whatever is to share this, that if a young Jim Furyk and a young Lee Trevino and a young Bubba Watson showed up at your junior camp, you sure you can teach them without messing them up? I don't know that I could have done that up to a certain few years ago. I'd have probably tried to make them all look like Kane Stewart at some point. And I think now I would provide an environment to help them become the major champions that they are. That's so. I think you know, always ask yourself if they've got a little success gimmick like crazy grips or whatever. Maybe don't go all the way with it. Give it a shot. I don't know. You agree with that?
Yeah, greatness is unique. It always is. So, you know, if somebody's, it's all about the combination. You know, if the grip is strong and the face is shut at the top, but through impact they're doing what they need to do to get the club face on the ball and they're consistent, you'd be an idiot to change it if they're having a lot of success. You know, I see a lot of players with the face really good at the top and can't hit it at the target. You know, so if the combinations work, and it's like the grip versus the combination of the face and the angle the club's coming into the ball at, how their pivot is, it all has to work. You know, so the thing I would hate is if I had 10 players and they looked exactly the same. I think I'd be doing something wrong.
Right.
I want my best 10 players to look completely different. if that's how they came to me and I'm working with them that way, that would be fabulous. So I think I'd
Don't be
doing a
ashamed to
good
say it. If anyone here teaching a model, like you got this idea of a blueprint or a recipe in your head, that like, you know, let's stack and tilt's a model, one plane's a model. I know there's some movement in that, the Mo Norman deal. Rob?
I don't just teach Mo Norman, you know. Everybody gives it that label.
Yeah.
It's not just Mo Norman.
Single axis.
Because if you sit back and you look at the swing itself and certain movements that they made in the forward, in the backswing and the forward swing, you would see some similarities. And one of those happens to be Mo Norman because it's more single plane. But if you look into really old film of Ben Hogan, you would see that he went into a single plane too before he swung. Mo Norman and Nancy Lopez, they stood up. Ben Hogan pushed out. You know, so, you know. And
Yeah, there's stuff that common denominators, but really it's what the club does to the ball. You know, the thing that they've got in common is the impact zone, really, right? And it's down there. Down there. John, hit a couple more, you know, I'm going to start even already showing a couple of these things here. I've got, that's all right with you guys. I'm going to put this on John. Go ahead, you can hit it again, John. I've got, is Devin Fitzmaurice here? No. San Diego Golf Academy. I used to teach this guy when he was a little kid, when I was right out of college. And I used to teach Chris Riley and Kevin Riley and a couple other kids at this Tecolote Canyon in San Diego right after college. And one was Devin Morris, and Fitzmaurice, and he's now working at San Diego Golf Institute. And he's developed an app and an iPhone, and it's got 2 accelerometers and a gyroscope, or vice versa. And every iPhone from 4 on has it. So he developed this app around this. No thanks. So I've got, over the last couple of years, I've been recording John's swings. I have this belt, and I forgot it because I changed bags to my staff bag today, which I almost never carry. And there's this belt, but I can put it in his belt, and it'll give us a readout. It's really cool. It's called Golf Metrics. Anyone here know about it? The Golf Metrics or Zero Line? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just something to write down. It's really cool. Again, 3D on a budget. I think he's got a 99-cent version of this. It's an app. I paid $30 for it. It's the best $30 I ever spent. Now I'm able to kind of brand myself as a 3D golf instructor. This is one of the 3 things that I do. 99 cents. Are you in to say you're a golf instructor? 3D. All right. So I'm gonna put this on John's belt back here. Okay. This is going to measure John's range of motion. This is going to measure his peak speed. This is going to measure where he was where it was, and it's going to measure his tempo. Which if you're a good player, you're going to have fairly repeatable tempo. Like you all know about tour tempo, the 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So like words like tempo, rhythm, and timing are kind of nebulous, but there are some new industry standards for those words. Tempo is now considered how much time does it take to get the load to where you're going back to start forward to impact. So 1, 2, 3, 1. That's a 3 to 1. 1, 2, 3. Woody Austin might have a 4.5 to 1, something like that. And John, I think he's probably around a 4. Let's do it again. Go ahead and hit it. Let's see where you are.
So I took a 5 iron.
That's fine. Doesn't matter. There's another one I got that has the Club Matters.
6 iron.
Okay. Really good tool. Again with the belt. It gets my players out of the video. Oh, I don't like my shoulder, my elbow, my knee, whatever. Okay, let's see that here. Ding ding. Let's do another one.
I was moving around.
Yeah, you gotta. Oh, it asks you to hold still for 1 full second before you start. Like all 3D, these fairly reasonably priced 3D sensors, you need 1 second of not bouncing around before you hit. 1 second, not very long. Brady, you've got this, right?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, I have it. No, I think it's cool. The thing is, I put it on one of my. And I know Devin's worked on it. The thing I don't like is that it grades like the swing, and it gives you a grade. And the guy I put it on was Brandon, and I wanted to see what his numbers were, and they were ridiculous. And I even called Devin and talked to him, and he said he's never seen numbers like that before, and it gave him like a score of 94, and he hit the driver like 330 dead straight. So I figured if that was 94,
What's 100?
Yeah, and then I had another student who actually got 100 who hit it about 245.
Yeah, no, that's within
that-
your speed. It's sort of your overall blend of
Right,
stuff.
so I don't know if I could look at the numbers enough at this point to come to some sort of conclusion that I know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And that always scares me because if I'm getting information, I don't quite know what it means, and I'm trying to spout it off to a student. I can
Fair
look like
enough.
An idiot. I'm trying to avoid that.
Let me just hear what's your
I'm good
information.
with that as it is. So.
Here's the information that gave John. Like so, what turned 45, turned 9. John turned 44 degrees. Sit back. At impact, his belt buckle was 23 degrees open from like 0, and he was finished with any thrust at 79. So it wasn't like a crazy spin out like that, like 120. He kind of went like that. That's his overall speed was 330. It gives a lot of information. Really good little tool. I did it right now, which was because I'm running out of battery. But anyway, I can keep track of John's swing, and there's a little chart that kind of shows like where your range of motion, how much magnitude this motion, where it was in the swing. Pretty cool. That's one of the things I'm using with my teaching is 99 cents right now, the light version. I think they're $15.99 down now. Trust me, it's
Is that
great.
an iPhone or?
It is only, you got to have an iPhone 4 or above.
And what's the name of it?
Zero Line is how you look it up. Zero Line, all one word. Zero Line Golf.
What was his grade?
What?
You graded him?
His grade actually was only a 79, which again, you could kind of I'll talk about gamifying your practice too, but that's just a way, like when we get his model, like he might hit it perfectly and go, whatever the 79 was, that was perfect. That's the way
Right.
John hits it best.
That was a B- swing though. So I didn't
Was it your best swing?
No. it wasn't
Want to do
my
another
best
one? Let's do another one. Let's just see if he can change it.
I'll tell you, one of the things about working with Billy is I never look at my swing on video, never, except for maybe once every 3 years. And the reason is because every time I look at it, it just makes me want to puke. I see 100 things that are so wrong with it, and the best thing about working with Billy is he'll tell me, that is not bad. What you're doing right there, what I think is bad, he's saying, that's exactly where you need to be. There's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, I could literally hit the flag stick with a perfect, as hard as I can hit it, perfect ball flight, and then look at that swing on video and pick out 10 things wrong with that swing. Working with him has reassured me that, hey, what I'm doing isn't wrong. It's working. So that's what this thing does too.
It's just another way than video. Like I still use video. I have a really great video camera. I use my iPad a ton. I show people. I prefer sending them a before and after picture than the whole, like I said, the fondling of the video and all that.
It's closer to the sky.
I don't think it matters. They said as long as it orientates itself, it's fine. Okay. Your score on that one. Let's see what you gave you. What did you get the before? It actually liked that less. Here's what it's not loving about John. He doesn't have a long drive. I have this with my better players. They have a little more consistent pace through it, like a little more glide. Like I've got Fred Funk on here. I got a few others. I won't name them, like drop names, and that's what I found my better players. And Josh was going to be here. He goes a fair amount faster, but it's like a glide. Like it doesn't go bam bam. And the long drive dudes are like, there's an incredible, like a Rory McIlroy, who's kind of a mini long drive guy. There's incredible thrust, a stabilization, and then a release. And so there's like a peak of this thing that just goes bam. And some of you are familiar with kinematic sequence. That's what this does. I get to talk about kinematic sequence. At least it kind of opens the thing. And it depends who it is. I can go, hey, Mrs. Haverkamp or whoever. Your minus, your hips are this way. Like, oh, see that -1? Let's try to get them to at least +1. And they go, oh yeah, that's better. Instead of, oh God, my swing looks terrible. I still use video. Don't get me wrong. I still like it. I still send people pictures. I prefer the before and after picture on the photo collage. There's that one. Anyone using what kind of apps or what kind of cameras are you? Anyone using Coach's Eye? Coach's Eye? V1. Look at that. Other stuff, iSwing or whatever. Couple.
How about UberSense?
UberSense? Yeah. Get to send it to them and all that. That's what you like to?
That one's cool because you can take the video even if you don't shoot it with you can shoot it with your iPhone and then bring it in and import it, and it allows you to do a voiceover and send that out, which is kind of cool. So,
Coach's Eye does that too.
Yeah. So I mean, the players that I have that are traveling or playing in college or playing professionally, they send me their swings all the time. If they're struggling, it's the only way we can really communicate and talk about it, right? I mean, they can just tell me things with their swing or things that are going on with the ball flight, and hopefully they're getting better at diagnosing and fixing those on their own. But they want to send it. You know, they feel comfortable if they send it, and then I can make a video and send it back to them. I can compare it to when they were doing it better in the past and whatnot. Yeah.
What kind of camera is that over there? Is that a
That's
Canon?
an EX FH100.
I've got a camera just like that. It's a Canon. It's
Yeah.
a ELP, and it's got an automatic slow motion on it. And then there's a free software out there that you can get. It's Windows based. As far as I know, it's Windows based. Anyway, I know it's Windows based. It's called Kinovea, Kinovea,
Yeah.
and it's the same. It's this almost identical software to what V1 is. You can draw. You can do everything. You can split the screen.
And the new iPhone camera on that thing is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it's double iPhone.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
it's kind
John.
of to the point.
Well, let me
Actually,
see here. Let me get to the what club you
a
got?
few of us were talking about is that
Okay,
the new
perfect.
iPhone almost replaces the need to have a video camera at all. Because if you have that and you have your iPad out there, it's so good, and you can use it just like you would, you know, putting FireWire in. It's phenomenal. So the technology is getting to the point where I think we're going to have less junk on the range than we ever had. Yeah.
What are you doing something to hook up the phone to the iPad so it's on a bigger screen, or are you viewing it on the phone?
I don't have the new phone yet, but when I film with the phone, I just use the phone. You know, I've used the iPad too, but I still I'm kind of a dinosaur in that I like to make DVDs of my entire lesson for my student. So I still use a camera with a FireWire that runs into a laptop computer that runs JC Video, which I love and I've used for a long, long time. And then that goes straight through S-Video, goes into a DVD recorder, so everything that's on the screen goes on the DVD. That's cool. So I mean, while the new technology is good enough to use for sure, I don't think it's it's necessary to go. You don't have to have all that equipment anymore. You can definitely do it. Just the new iPhone alone, the camera's sensational. I've seen video off it. It looks like you're using a Casio or anything else. It's very high tech. So.
All right. This is another thing. This is called SwingSense. Anyone heard of this thing, SwingSense? If you were at the trade show, this is kind of a cool thing. It goes on the back of this glove, blank. It connects up with Bluetooth. So what you just saw there, and you can hit another, John. What he got there was he took his backswing position. It's like 270s parallel, right? 360 would be straight down. It gave a club plane comparison of the back versus down. My big thing still, again, is the parts going back to parts going forward. Again, John is kind of smooth going back and then has good acceleration. He's 3.6 to 1. Go ahead and hit again, John.
Good or bad?
It's you. It's good. It's that you can repeat it is the good part. See how sensitive these players are? Gotta be careful with them. That was also 3.6 to 1. So he repeated his exact tempo. So that club it probably didn't take the minutia exact path in the sky, but it was close. And the tempo, the beat he kept, the music he made was exactly the same. 3.6 to 1. Let's do one more. That was 3.5 to 1. So it was in a tenth of a second, right? That's something about like, there's this argument about, do you go for roboticizing your player? Like repeatability. Hey, the ball, I got a funky lie I got to deal with. What happens now? Well, you deal with that when you play. But repeatability, I mean, is that something you're teaching, Brady?
Yeah, I mean, obviously trying to get the club to go through there as consistently as possible, but I'm not using that technology at this point. So
if you, I mean, there's that. I mean, I really love the other thing too. I dig this one. It gives a cool little video, like a kind of a graphic of what the little computer dude is doing. You're gonna go driver, okay? I'll need to go back and change it to driver. It's pretty simple. D. Bingo. Like, I mean, whatever. I can show you all. Like, I mean, that's what the kind of the interface looks like. It's kind of like if you all remember that Ralph Mann thing, like the Swing Like a Pro. It looks like that. Let's see if it picks it up from here. John, go ahead.
That's a good question. Does it burn battery?
Burn a lot of battery.
No, not really. I haven't noticed it. No, no, not that I noticed. It looks like that. Let's see which one he hits. Let's see what happens.
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see. I'm not sure if I'm out of range. 10 feet, I think. So it gives a kind of a little graphic that you can see. Now it'll give me like information. That's called SwingSense. I brought a dozen of them. Oh, and I actually set up for you, if you go to the website, and there, if you could put a promo code in and get your pro use discount, it's SCPGA. Just set that up so you can get that. What's it cost? It cost like $100 and you sell them for like $130 or whatever. It retails $130 or $150, something like that. That was 3.6 to 1 again. Curve a ball once. That was 3.7 to 1. Took a little more load. It never hits a curve.
I can.
I know you can.
I went about 2 feet.
What
John,
other-
say
what other
again?
information does that give? Does it give like where the hand path was?
Yeah, it does.
So,
It'll
like,
show-
if you have a less skilled golfer, you can see that their hand path goes all over the place. Maybe the lines don't trace over. Can you like put a group of them together and see where the lines go? Or?
Yeah, it'll load. Like it'll have every swing here, and I can kind of like press it, and like we could see go through all of them.
They'll have to look at them.
That's a cool. Those are two really cool 3D apps that, I mean, again, even on my website, if you go on there, it'll say something like 3D motion capture. You know, it's not that I bag on video. I use video. It's just that I'm a golf coach who uses 3D now instead of just video. Every grandpa is out there with his iPhone, yelling at the kids about what they're doing wrong with his video, and going, I see you're lifting your head. Disconnected. All right, that's cool. That's all I really want to show with those two things, and then we can kind of talk about some other stuff here. Brady, you got anything to say about that stuff?
No, I think it's all cool. I mean, all the more information that you're getting when you're teaching, if you can find something that makes sense to help your student with it, I think that's great. The thing I was telling you about the first app that he was using is I don't know how to decipher all the information yet. And I think the grading thing I got a little hung up on because of what happened with my students. So I don't have a lot of patience for stuff like that. It either works for me right away or I'm done with it. I want to move on to something else. So that's a character
Too many
flaw,
cartoons.
obviously.
Too many cartoons.
On my fault.
ADD.
This is a friend of mine, Jeff, who I've known him for a long, long time and worked with him. And I thought what might be interesting is, without getting into anything about him, I just want you to watch a few of his shots and then, we'll go through and I'll talk to him and ask him some questions as if we were working for the first time to see what would be in your heads about what you would go to first and how you might work with it. So you can see sort of the process that maybe I go through in trying to figure out what I'm going to do with a student, and then maybe I can learn how to help him better because we've got so many good teachers here at once. That would be great. I'll steal from you. Putting the alignment stick down. I don't know how many of you guys are using alignment stick on the range for your students. Almost everybody is that. Do you guys use that before they hit any balls or before you talk to them about it? Do you take it off the ground first and then hit without it towards the target? Alan, is that what you're without first, and then you put it down afterwards? So I've kind of gotten that habit too. I'm seriously lazy, so I'll just leave the thing out there and I'll set the balls up and have them hit. But if I'm doing a good job, I'm probably not having it down first, having them hit at a target to see where they're going without it, and then I'll put it down there if I'm going to use video or whatever I'm going to use. And I still use video. I still think it's cool. I think it helps a player visualize what they're trying to do. We're not trying to be perfect, but I'm trying to get them as much information as possible. So I still find it very useful to use.
Can I say what I would use? I use this for the sticks, maybe more. Like I always figured, like you just put golf club on the ground. What golf clubs pretty much can't do is do a little goal post, like sort of like this. So triangulation, or we call that like just looking off to the side. What's that called? Parallax. Parallax. I said that. Parallax. Nice, smart. Parallax. Parallax is basically kind of like trying to shoot a gun from the side. So whoever's right here, like if you could see that was like slightly right of the blue flag, like so set up to Jeff. Like whatever your eyes are telling you. Look, I'm gonna go through your eyes. Don't I look like I'm going right on your visual, like down your line? Yeah. You can tell it's way over. Whoever guys are right behind, it's quite different where I am than where. So what's he likely to do then? Like aim right and come over the top just because your brain's going, it's over there. It's parallax. That's what I'm using my stick more for. I mean, I might do this stuff too, the planes. Just that's just stuff I'm. Otherwise,
Gee, thanks, Billy. Get out of the way.
Get off.
The one thing about using the video too, if you're ever comparing swings, speaking of parallax, Billy, if you take a, I'm sure you guys have done this. If you took the same swing and you filmed from here, and then from here, and then you did the other side, you did the same thing down the line, man, you get 3 different images for sure. So it's very dangerous to be comparing pictures, especially of your own player, if you're not sure of where you're comparing them from. Where do you put the camera? That's another big thing. Do you put it on the toe line? Are you on the target line? Are you on the hand line? Are you between somewhere? Who's on the toe line with the camera? Anybody on the target line with the camera from down the line? Then who's in between the two?
Is that hand line?
Yeah,
Down the hand.
hand line. I mean, I don't think it matters as much where you are as much as it is that you're always there. You know, so if you're going to compare swings, then you should be comparing the swings from the same spots, you know, because otherwise you're going to get different pictures, you know. So, Jeff, you loose?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff's hitting a few. I haven't seen one shot, so what have you guys seen out of the ball flight? What are you seeing that's going on? Pretty straight? Man, I'm good.
I'm done. See you guys.
He's out. Check, please. Is there stuff from this side? Because you guys aren't seeing the swing as much from down the line. What are you looking for from this camera angle? If you were on this vantage, what would you be looking at? Jeff, where would your eyes be?
I'm looking at his setup and then how he goes through the ball.
Okay, in what way through the ball?
What's that?
What are you looking at through the ball? What's in your head?
I'm looking at dips and torso rotation and see how they move through it, and seeing separation.
Okay, sort of the transition where his hips are versus upper body and sort of the sequence.
And how the club, and how that relates to the impact.
Okay, all right. Is that something you guys would do from this side too? Is that a pivot side? So, and then from this side, what are you guys looking at from this side? Where are your eyes going?
Downswing.
Downswing. So, plane.
Setup.
Yeah. So
Backswing's a little below plane.
backswing's a little below plane. So where's below plane in your eyes, Zach? Where the
I'd say probably the left arm is a little lower than shoulder plane.
left arm's a little lower. So what would that theoretically do to him in terms of his ball flight? What might you see in that? That might be something you want to change.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's a little low coming down.
Okay.
This vantage point's a little hard to catch it, but some
Sure.
of them look a little pushed. And
Okay. So those are.
Fine angle's really consistent. He just
So-
turns away and turns through it.
So is there anything, Jeff, what's the number one miss at this point? What do you see that you don't like? What's the bad shot? Because that's something I always ask, like, what situation scares the crap out of you? You know, is it water down the right with the wind down the left, and you don't like that scenario for the driver? What's going on in your
For
head?
me, the scariest is a pull left.
Okay, so the pull is something he doesn't dig. You know, so what do you do if you hit a shot like that on the course? What goes through your mind that happened that you're trying to maybe not do the next time you hit it?
For me,
Yeah.
it's an under and a toss with my right hand.
Okay. So sort of too far below plane, face kind of flipping, you know, and that's why the thing is starting left of the target. And we know by FlightScope and other launch monitors that if the ball starts left of the target, generally speaking, the face is pointing there to a certain degree, right? So in your head, you hit a pull, what's the next shot? What are you doing on the next shot?
For me?
Yeah.
Try to turn my chest more left,
Okay.
towards my miss.
Would anybody else tell them something different? Because, I mean, I don't certainly pretend to know that I have all the answers or think that way. What would you tell him if he's hitting a pull? What would be the thing, Zach?
I just had a question. I mean, what's your handicap, and then what club are you hit? Is that your
This is a 7, and I'm about a 1.8.
1.8.
And what does that carry distance for your 7? What number are you looking at when you make a solid swing with that 7?
75.
175.
You had a question, too?
No, I was saying, you said if he's pulling, the only thing I see is his right arm's a little high. His right arm is a little bit more on plane.
Okay.
It'll be easy for him to deliver the club a little more from the inside, not pull it as much. But if the right arm's high, the right shoulder's high, there will be a tendency for him to pull that.
So now that's an awesome point, because this is where I have this huge problem with the numbers guys. Because what you said makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. But a numbers guy would say, why would that affect the left starting shot? And I'm not saying you're wrong, believe me, I'm not.
I'm a dirt guy, sorry.
No, so I'm a dirt guy too. I mean, I'd much rather sit out here and teach how to hit a ball off the grass without any of the junk, but I dig it. It's kind of fun to learn. But that made a lot of sense, right? Right arm's kind of high. That's why it's going that way. But we know by the numbers that a left starting shot is a face issue, not a path issue, according to all the launch monitors, right? So how would that help? It makes sense to me, a lot of sense to me, because I have this belief that path does influence face. I think they have a strong relationship with each other. So just because I see the ball going left, it doesn't mean I'm going to just get the face more open to get the ball to go more to the target. To me, something's going on in it. You know, I've seen faces like this where the toe's turning down too quickly and the club's going left, and I fixed that shot by doing exactly what you said, and a little more here to address, right? Things are feeling a little bit more that way. and now all of a sudden the ball is starting to target slightly right and turning over. Did I change the face? Yeah. I didn't try to change the face necessarily. I was changing the path because I knew that there was a relationship between the face and the path that's strong. So if you get stuck sometimes on the launch monitor with just one side of the equation, right? And you say, well, the face is left, I got to fix the face. You know, okay, that's great. You might actually fix the face by fixing the path, and vice versa. They're so strongly related. And those that teach, like I said, the 10,000 hours on the range, I'd rather have that guy come to work for me than somebody that knew all the numbers on the flight scope, because that guy knows that intuitively. They know that. They're a teacher. They teach the game. And I'd much rather watch a teacher teach than somebody run numbers on a flight scope. Not that I don't like the machine, but the guys that can get the path and the face to work correctly, even if they don't know the ball flight laws, the new stuff, that's a guy that knows what he's doing.
Cause and effect.
And we were saying before, digging out of the dirt, to me, that's much more important. So if Jeff, maybe the next one, let's try it, right? So let's see if he can get right shoulder feels a little lower, right arm has a little bit more bend, maybe he feels more right side tilt.
So is that going to get the club going more?
Theoretically, right? I mean, heck, this is kind of fun. We can see if it doesn't, maybe it has an effect on the path and the face. Maybe he hits a ball that starts left and hooks more, and flight scope was right after all.
Just only at address.
Just an address, right?
Just an address.
He's trying to get all in here. I said, just set
Okay.
up an address.
Only an address.
Arm on plane, do a little
See what happens.
Yeah, so right arm is a little bit more bent, right?
So like this?
Well, no, you don't. You don't.
A little less?
Hey, that's good.
That's good.
Good
Okay.
here?
Rock and roll. I think I'm fired and you're fired. So to me, that's much more about teaching. That's the thing I like the most. You know, I like all the toys and stuff. It's being able to change the ball flight, and it may not be scientifically correct, but man, that would work. I mean, how many times have you had a guy wiping the face across the ball and hitting just an awful weak cut that you say the club needs to come more from in here, and I want you to throw the toe at it? You know, that can work. You know, I mean, it's worked for me in the past. If you say that in a Facebook forum to the wrong person, your head gets chopped off, right? You don't know the science, you know? Or if you write that in an article, God forbid, and it publishes, and one of these clowns reads it and they post it on their thing, more, you know, another guy doesn't know what he's doing. You know, there's a lot of guys that have been teaching for a long time and getting phenomenal results without any tech at all. And so I'd rather listen to an actual teacher teach than listen to the numbers fly off the screen. Yeah.
Do you think that if you're dealing with a scientific person, somebody that's just completely into flight scope or TrackMan, and you made that change, that they would have to agree with it?
Yeah, I think you could prove it by the numbers.
Agree with it before.
Right. You're saying that if you took somebody who was totally into the numbers and you used that approach to change them, and you saw the numbers change with it, right? But some people would actually say you shouldn't do it that way because you're not explaining the science right. And
But I think you've got it doesn't change the science. I mean, you did it sort of what we would consider a different way.
you made it work and you fixed it, but you didn't explain it the way the science police wants you to do it. Exactly. So to me, the science police drives me nuts. I can't stand all that stuff because I want to change the ball flight, you know. And if I'm saying something that may be a little bit scientifically incorrect, but I'm getting the desired change, to me that's much more important than saying the right thing. I'll tell you what, I know my student doesn't care if I'm saying the wrong thing to them. They want to hit it better, right? So it's more important that you get the result than that you say the right thing. You know, or if you publish an article, take cover. Because if you say the wrong thing, publish an article, man, you get lit up.
As a student, and I play money games on the weekends now, you know, because I'm old and whatever, can't move that well. But when I'm older, when I'm out there and I've got a few $100s on the line, the last thing I'm thinking about is trying to get my launch angle up, and I'm trying to hit the ball straight. However, I can get that done. And if it's you know, it's not a thought but a feeling. And so if you're teaching swing feelings and you can get the information from the science and then be able to communicate them to me in a feeling, that's a lot easier for me to do that on the course than thinking about how do I hit 2 more degrees up on this driver so I can get another 20 yards out of this thing, because I gotta make 3 on the par 5. That just doesn't happen. You know, it's not the way I'm thinking.
I can add to that.
Yeah, Bill.
I say all the time, like, there's optimal, and then there's in the moment, what can you do to make the ball get in play? You do what you got to do, your hold on, whatever, your slice it into the play. Last hole, like Hale Irwin was down at TaylorMade one time, and I happened to be there. He's like, yeah, I know what optimal is, but I like a lower shot. I know what coming down the stretch. I want something like a BB. I don't want to see that thing going up in the sky. It may not be optimal, but I know that's what
I hear that same thing a lot with driver. You know, how many of you guys would rather be a little lower than up in the air too much? I think almost every good player that I talk to, they're like, yeah, I don't care if it's down here a little bit. You know, they feel more comfortable seeing the ball come off on that trajectory, even though it may not fly as far as it would have had it launched at a higher, but they really don't care. They want it in play. You know, they know how important it is to get it in play. That's all they care about when it's on the line. They want to hit it where they can find it, for sure.
It's fun to play with it on the range.
Yeah, we have some fun. We have a lot of fun trying to mess around with the numbers, but if you get in a money game, all of a sudden, keep it in play.
I gotta tell you,
2 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you,
away.
I was at the back at Brookline for the USAM. My good buddy and another one of my students made it to the USAM. Bobby Schaefer, maybe some of you know. 49 years old. It was great because he's 49. They kept asking him, "Oh, is your son playing? Is your son playing?" You know, and he's, "Oh, I'm playing." "Oh, well, good for you. Good for you." And we were talking about like all these things, but those kids, there was 300 of the best players in the world, and the launches of these kids nowadays, 300 in the air, and I mean it was skyrockets. These college, you teach Brandon. I mean he's just a mangler, you know, and they're almost all like that. In fact, Michael Kim was the #1 player in the world at the time. He goes, "You know, I don't know why they say Bubba and JB Holmes are that long. I mean, I've played with them. They're just like every other college kid, you know, and that's what it's like now out there. And it's not a surprise what's going on."
Yeah, it's going a different direction, for sure. So, last thing with Jeff is, and I think it was interesting, how many of you would ask your student about where their body is before you start the lesson? You know, like how are they doing physically? Is that something we do? I mean, I know I do all the time. It's one of my, I've done it so many of you have done it for so long. I'm just automatic pilot. You know, like, okay, tell me about your body. What's wrong? You know, what's screwed up? Because I'm screwed up at this point, right? So with Jeff, you know, he's got issues. He's got issues physically. You might not be able to see it with the way his box hits it really good, but you know, what do you have going on?
I have a torn rotator in my left shoulder, and I had back surgery in March of this year.
So those are things that I want to know, you know, before I start working with somebody too. You know, and I'm sure we would all do that if we were going to be on the list team with somebody. But that's one of the first things I would ask is just so I know where they're coming from. Maybe, you know, not that TPI isn't important, but that's something that matters to me with my student in the range. You know, where is he at physically at that moment, because it may affect how I work with him. You know, I don't want to start to try and do stuff with him that he physically can't do or that's going to hurt him. And people usually don't do it anyway. Yeah, Barry.
You have to also be careful. I don't know if you teach a lot of older people, but a lot of older people don't want to tell you, or they somehow magically forget that they have played arm rotators. And then, you know, 2 months later, you're seeing them doing something funny, and you're figuring out, and they're like, "Oh, well, my plate in my arm." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, didn't we go over all their injuries?" "Oh, yeah, I got a plate, and I've got a hip, and I've got..." I quiz them over and over, and I'll say, "Do you have any plates, neck, back, shoulders?" I'll go through the whole body.
I quote House.
What'd you say?
I quote House. Everybody lies.
This is true.
Tom House, yeah.
About their body.
Yeah.
Maybe you should put him in a metal detector, Barry.
Crazy. LA Country Club. Beep, 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 beep.
Jeez.
But that's their problem too, not yours.
It is. And the thing with Jeff is Jeff has a lot of speed. Over the years we've worked, he used to get extremely narrow, and he still is soft in the transition, and the hang back with the flip this isn't the first day that he's ever done that. You know, and it's gotten better over time, but like all good players, he finds a way under pressure to get it done. So thanks, Jeff, for stepping up.
Get her done. You know, we got a few bit of time. I want to talk about training and practice, super training. I'm kind of look, I'm 20 years member now. I got my little card from the PGA, 20 years member. I've had a chance to teach over in Europe for a while. That was great experience, teaching a whole bunch of German people especially. But I've been talking to these scientists lately, like for the first X amount of years. I mean, I love coming to these things. I have about 9 times too many education points that I need, okay? I'm just kind of a geek that way. And I know that, we were talking about Brian Manzella yesterday. Some of you here know who that is, and some of you are really science-based, or I think some of our answers we got to find also outside of golf, like in the human movement learning, kinesiology, physiology, these things. I think I've been talking to this one scientist lately. I met him at the PGA Trade Show, in fact, and he says he's kind of one of those guys with the pocket protector and these thick glasses. He goes, "I am by magnitude the world's foremost authority on human movement learning." I'm like, "All right, so tell me more." Well, it turns out the guy's written this great book, and I've been talking to him for about an hour or so a week over the last few weeks, and getting some cool things. And someone here, John Ortega, I know you were there, the World Scientific Congress of Golf. Anyone else go to that World Scientific Congress of Golf? Were there at Phoenix?
I was at the first one.
Oh, okay, all right. It's a week long of lectures by like scientists from all sorts of areas, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, John, can I get you to hit it again, bud?
Sure.
I'll just show you one more thing that we're doing as far as training goes. Well, let's talk about this: sports vision. Sports vision. You got all your eyesight or your vision. You've got these like sort of 8 different skills your eyes do. Just here, catch the ball, John. And here, you just toss to me. You just play a little catch. And so, can you say what number that ball is? Without, no, you can't, right? This is our wear system. So you've got I don't want to hate using fancy words. Magnocellular seeing system versus your parvocellular, which goes, oh, that's a pin into practice. That's the what of this? This is the wear. So we play golf with our wear system. Like maybe some of you have done this at dusk. You go out and play and you can't really even see, or Jack Nicklaus in the 86 Masters, I'll never forget that. Where'd that go, Jackie? And he sticks like whatever makes eagle. Or you play at dusk. I was telling John this. Some of my best golf I play is right at sunset. You can't even really see. You kind of go out there in the haze in the dark, and you get up there and you stuck it. Or especially short game, or you're chipping, or you're putting. You can't even really see all the cuteness of it. But your wear system is more, it's like a blind person. I'm calling this visual echolocation. Echolocation, like is what bats or sonar. It's just kind of a thing, I don't know. Again, the wear system, it's surprising, especially with someone who's really good at launching things. John was a very good basketball player too. How precise you can do that, this throwing and catching. And we've all played sports, and this dude, Carl Schmidt, he goes, I use the word ballistician, ballistics, an expert in ballistics. So one of my enlightenments was when I went away to college at UCSB, and it was like, okay, here's the golf team, and we'd all go out and play basketball. And I went, oh my God, every player on the team, all 15 of these players can play really good basketball. And we go play softball. Everyone was a good softball player. Everyone was good at darts. Everyone was good at pool. There wasn't one person who was lame at one of those things. It was like a really enlightening thing to me. Like, these dudes are just good at pretty much everything. And I think, like we were talking about soccer, it weeds out the uncoordinated kids. So this wear system, of wherever you are, you're. Now John's going to get his book. And we collaborated on. I wrote the foreword and he wrote the book. And you want to talk about that, John?
Finish your point.
No, the wear system of this is. So anyway, about sports vision, it's not your eyesight. Eyesight is, I can see what's written on your paper. The acuity, that has nothing to do with my ability to toss that, to make it lean up against it. Okay, that's not the same. That's pretty good pitching orders. Opinions. No gambling, Bushwood. Go ahead, John, and just let's see, or you want to talk?
Well, we were going to talk about types of practice. Right?
Oh, okay, the types of practice, yeah, okay, you're right, thank you. We got like 3 basic types of practice. Block practice. John's got your what? You got 7? 6 iron. Oh. 6 iron, 6 iron, 6 iron, 6 iron. Maybe you're working on something like Brady's working with Jeff there. Like, hey, this thing. You go, okay, let's grind this thing in to submission. We got it. Now we start randomizing it. You block practice, random practice. Anyone heard of that? Y'all heard of that? Block and random. And then there's competitive practice. What I've been doing with John
to play my next shot in, so I'll pull out an 8 iron. And I'll hit that shot and imagine my target is the hole, right? So, and you do that to break it up. And that's great practice because, let's face it, you look up and down any driving range, you'll see 98% of the people are just doing block practice. They're just one ball after another, after another, after another. Then they get on the golf course and they think, God, I hit it so good on the range. And here I can't hit an 8 iron over a bunker or something because they don't practice that. You're hitting golf shots on the driving range every 5 to 10 seconds. On the golf course, you hit a driver and you walk, and you walk, and you walk, and you walk. Now you're at your ball. Now you have to go through your process, your pre-shot routine, your situation analysis. Then you got to pull a club. Then you have to have a technique, and I call it a process. That's what my book's about, on how to hit this shot. So that's where what's this? Is that second? What do we call it?
Random.
I have a terrible memory. Sorry.
Random practice.
Random practice. That's where that comes in, right? So by doing that, and I do that random practice, I'll hit my driver, and then I'll go back to my bag, and I'll wait, and I'll wait, and I'll wait, as if I'm walking to the ball. Then I pull out the 8-iron, I assess the situation, and I hit that shot as if I was on the golf course. So that breaks it up tremendously, and takes a while to hit a, you know,
Large bucket.
it takes a while. So what I do when I do that type of practice, I take 10 balls. And it might take me 15 minutes to hit 10 balls. I can go through that whole bucket right there in 10 minutes, no, or less. No,
Random or block hitting.
yeah, with block hitting.
If you're a beginner, like for our beginners, it's okay to have them swatting balls. They're in motor skill acquisition mode. You can line them up. You can tee up that like, you know, in the Haney project where he's got the tee. I think that's not bad for beginners. Or like when someone's trying to acquire something, like what the heck is this thing? You know, go ahead. That's fine. It's like throwing darts or like. That's a good way to get the tuning down. But you know, as you get better and better, you need to get more toward the competitive practice, which is just random practice with, you know, a competition facet to it. That's those big three block things, you know, block, random, and competitive practice. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Just training. Like I say this all the time on any driving range in the world. There's a lot of activity. There's not a lot of training going on. All right, and I think you'd probably all agree with that. There's really not that much where if someone walked off and went like, check, I quantified that, I gamified that, my score is better. And I think I'm into gamifying. Like you know, Brady said he didn't like the score on the thing. I'm okay, like, you know, wherever you are, even if it's Brandon Hagee and it's got a 94, and that should be 110. I think it's not so much the fact that it was, there's room for improvement, no matter how, until he's winning all the majors, I mean, really, or winning every tournament. I just think there's always that. So.
Do you throw in shot shaping practice?
Yeah, we do. You know, John's a little more like a Fred Funk type player than so mostly with him, like, you know, but he's really good at it. Like we play a lot together, and he's good out of the trees, around trees. So even though you don't practice that much, you'll do a little draw.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I spend a whole day with that. I'll take a bucket of balls. I rarely hit a bucket of balls. I think I never hit more than, just because of my back, I never hit more than 70 balls maybe. But on any given day, I'm doing blocks, you know, and the other two, whatever those are, competitive and made again.
And random. Bill, how are we doing on time?
Got at least half hour.
Okay.
Or more.
Oh, cool.
Like it.
That's fine.
So, but then I throw in a fourth one, and that's what I call skill shots, right? So I'll spend a whole day just working on skill shots, and if you ever want to get some crazy looks on the driving range, go ahead and do that for a sustained period of time. I'll sit there hitting severe hooks and severe low and high, and I mean, I've had people stand behind me and go, "Oh yeah, I can help you with your swing," man, you know. So they think that you don't know what you're doing, but like
I just watched Angel Cabrera do that, and apparently that's how he goes before he goes out and plays. He gets massive hook, massive slice, like he does it like 10 times, and then he'll walk. Then there's no straight when he walks over the first tee and hits it.
So
that's his pre-shot. That's apparently what he does. His caddy said that.
So then based on, and I want to do a real quick plug for myself, shameless plug. This is my book. I have a background in psychology, and my father was a sports psychologist. So from a very, very, very early age, like playing pee-wee football and basketball, my dad was telling me things that other parents didn't even understand. You know, I mean, I could hear him telling me, you know, don't forget to breathe while I was at the free throw line to win a game or something, you know. And I got funny looks from the guys that, you know, your dad's an idiot or something, you know, don't you know how to breathe? But these were things I was doing from a very early age. So I played around the world. I played in 25 different countries on a few different tours. And and I'll be honest, Jeff hits the ball. It's more impressive probably to watch a guy who smashes the ball than to watch me. I'm a bore fest. You play golf with me, and I'll tell you, 1,000 times I've had people say, "You shot what?"
Yeah.
You know, 65. How?
Yeah,
it's so boring.
This guy.
I don't hit it that far. I just kind of put it here, and then I put it there, and I make a few putts, and I don't make any mistakes. But a lot of that is just, you know, it's from my process, and that's in my book. And I brought a few of these. They're $15, whatever. So
$15, come on. The foreword is worth reading itself.
Yeah, Bill wrote the foreword. Billy wrote the foreword for my book. But, so anyways, the only thing, if I can take 5 minutes or whatever, this is chapter 1 of my book is pre-shot routine. I know every single one of you guys knows what that is and has, and I don't know, do you guys teach that when you're given a golf lesson? Do you actually walk them through a pre-shot routine? How many people do that with their teachings?
Everyone.
That is outstanding, because as a competitive player for 15 years, or 30 years really, that is the most important thing that you can teach anybody. The most important thing. I watch people that are good golfers and they take one practice swing on one tee shot and 6 the next. They're thinking one thing, one shot, 2 holes later they're thinking something completely different. The strength of my game, the thing that makes me competitive, is that my focus, which I work on tremendously. I do meditation and self-hypnosis and all kinds of crazy things in the book again. But I have a pre-shot routine that never, ever, ever changes on the 18th hole or the 72nd hole of a tournament with a 1-shot lead, or playing with my buddies on the weekend. I do the exact same thing every single time. Billy talked about how important is repetition. To me, it's my livelihood. I do the same thing every time. I mean, how are you going to do the same thing without practicing the same thing, right? If you practice something different, you're going to get different results every time. So my pre-shot routine is just to break it down simple. Let's see the white flag on the right there on that green. That's probably a 6-iron for me. I stand behind it and I use 5 sense imagery, right? I see myself hitting the ball. I see the ball fly. I see the ball land on my target. I feel my body as I'm going through it, and this takes time. You try it one time and see it. This is hard. It took me years to do this, and I've been working on this for years. I can hear the sound in my mind of a solid contact hitting the ball. I can smell things, pine needles. All these things that you put in your mind remove those demons that will pop in there from time to time. The more things that you have positive to pinpoint your focus, the stronger your focus is going to become, first of all, and the less chance of negative thoughts coming in. So once I do all that, once I go through my visualization, and I can do that in 5 seconds basically, because I've done it so long, then I approach the ball. I basically take one practice swing, which is a rehearsal, which is exactly what I want to do at impact. I stand behind it again, I see my line, and then I just step up, and I might have one swing thought in my head, and usually it's the same one. Try to get that left shoulder up, but always, and Billy and I were talking about this on the way over, I'm a target back golfer, not a here to the target golfer, right? My focus is always on the target, no matter what the shot is. If it's a chip shot, my target isn't the hole, it's the spot that I want to land the ball on, right? So I focus on that target. Most people, if they have the chip yips or they're not too confident, or they'll take out a putter when they should be chipping it or whatever, it's because they have that fear of not being able to make solid contact. If you take that out of it and just focus on that spot, it might be immediate, it might take a week, it might take a year, but if you don't do anything but just focus on that spot, eventually you'll forget about the things that are causing you to hit it bad, and you'll start hitting that spot. You'll start hitting your target. So I'm definitely very, very target.
So as you can see, he's not all just brawn. He's a little bit of brain. Brady,
Yeah.
Can I get a critique of John's program? Can you come over and take a look and see what you think of his
swing?
Yeah.
I've watched John play on and off for 20-something years.
Well, what do you think?
He's always been good. I'd never
Mostly
mess with it.
basketball.
I'm smart. I wouldn't. Yeah, basketball. Not so much.
I met Brady playing basketball. I didn't even know he played golf. That's how long I've known him. So let me go through my pre-shot routine again. I'm gonna visualize everything. I step in and I take my one rehearsal. I look at my target, just exactly like how I want to hit it. I step back one more time. I see that target line right in front of me. and then I just make a normal golf swing with whatever swing thought I'm thinking of.
Normal golf swing.
And of course, terrible shot. But that's what happens when,
You bring it out.
yeah, when
Right.
you start talking about it. So.
We got to get on to our next thing here, John.
Go ahead.
Appreciate it. Brady, you want to get Jeff? You want to wrap up with Jeff anymore? Or you want to talk about a couple things?
No, I'd rather leave Jeff over there.
Leave him out?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
Let's
looks
you
wiped
guys
out.
chill. Enjoy, Jeff. Enjoy the shade.
How many of you guys are on PGAtour.com looking at stats and all that stuff?
I am.
Give me something interesting that you guys have learned that you didn't know in the last few years that maybe you know now, based on the numbers that we're getting from shot length and stuff. Does anybody have anything interesting? I'm sorry?
Strokes gained putting.
Strokes gained putting, right? So what have you learned about strokes gained putting?
Guys that do that with tournaments.
That's true. What is the range? What is the distance that they're really looking at that number from?
It's got 20 feet.
Right. So like 15, a little bit closer than 15 feet. Anybody else with an interesting number?
I
Scott?
got a good one.
Yes, Philly.
Actually, Bubba Watson's driver, what it was useful in a tournament, like from strokes gained driving. So it was Luke Donald was the #1 strokes gained putting, and it was worth 0.8 per round against the number 100 player, or the mean tour player. So he was 0.8 putts per round better. And Bubba Watson's driver was worth 1.3. That was, I thought, a really interesting, powerful stat.
Has that changed the way any of you guys have done your lessons and worked with your developing players? Jeff, have you messed with that at all?
Just awareness of what's important and what's not.
So when I heard 100 yards was like the number. You know, I was a believer. You know, lay back to that yardage and then hit the 100-yard shot. And you know what the numbers say now is that that's not really true. The closer to the green you can get, the better you're going to be at getting close to the hole. And the closer to the hole you are, the more putts you make. You know, so it's changed the way that I teach now, especially with my developing players. In that I don't spend much time at all from 80. If I'm doing swing stuff, it's different. If we're working on the technical swing stuff, but back to the tactical practice like soccer, is we work from 75 and in, and then from 185 and out. So I don't want my players really working the 7-iron on the range at all, because the numbers say that even if they're the best player in the world on that distance, they're not going to gain much on the 70th best player in the world. Same thing from 100 yards. Ironically enough. So a lot of my practice with my players is working from 10 yards, 20 yards, 30, 40, 50. And you can see that I put the cones out there at those distances, which I do generally every day unless I'm really lazy, and then I don't do it. But those distances are really important. And it's not the distance that the ball ends up, but it's the carry distance that I'm always working on them with. I have a little game where we play where if they're 1 or 2 yards short, then it adds to their total 1 or 2. If they're offline by a yard, then we add that to it as well, and we see over those 5 shots from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, how low can they get the number? You know, how close are they on average to landing at the distance that they want to land? Because the way the numbers bear out on tour, if you can get it 8 feet from the hole, you got pretty much a 50-50 shot at making that putt. Where if you can get it 15 feet from the hole, the numbers go way down. So if you're missing greens, this is a critical distance. 10 to 20 yards is huge. You know, if you can't be good from 10 to 20 yards, you're not going to get it as close, and you won't make as many putts. It's that simple. And then when you're talking about birdie opportunities, we're looking at guys, 100 yards from me with my players. Obviously, I'm going to practice it, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I'd rather spend the time on 70 yards, 60 yards, 50 yards. Because the best guy in the world there is at a distance from the hole that they can make a lot more putts than the 70th best guy. It's that simple. It's just a numbers game is what it comes down to. The reason we work the far end is because you're not really looking at getting close to the hole there, you're getting close to the green. Or close enough to the green so that the next shot you can get inside that small distance again. 3 feet is 99% on tour. That'd be nice if you could chip it to 3 feet. If you can't, you can get it to 5 or 80% or so. So at what point, do I want to really focus on the long shots? It's probably about 180, 185, because that's a number they're probably going to miss some greens, or if they do, the putt's going to be long. So we want to work on that distance so that can keep getting them closer to the hole, so the next shot can get inside a distance that matters. So my practice and my work with my students has changed completely because I don't spend time on the range hitting 9, 8, and 7 iron. It just is an irrelevant number, for me with most of my players. I'm going to work the shortest of the distances, and I'm going to work the longest of the distances because they both have the biggest impact on the score. Where if they spend all day trying to be the best player in the world from 100 yards, the percentage of shots they're going to gain over a 4-round tournament is so negligible it's not worth spending the time. And it's totally different than what I thought. And I've completely evolved as a coach based on that. And then, the short ones, we work technique. It's not just about hitting the distance, but how do they do it? Which club are they going to use? And we found, I don't know if you've worked on this, Billy, too, but I found a lot that players have a yardage that they suck at with like a 60. It may be 30, it may be 40, but they're much better off if they go down a wedge and they go to the 56 or the 54 from that distance. They may be great with the 60 at 20 yards, but suck at it at 30 yards. So if I put the next lofted wedge down, they can hit it kind of like the 20-yard shot in terms of their technique and get the ball to go a little bit further, and they're able to get it closer to the hole. And the only way to know that is to actually work on it. Everybody's got to find the distance they don't like. I personally don't like 40 yards. I don't like that distance. I'm good to 30. I get to 40, I use my other wedge because I'm more consistent with it. But that's something I never would have known had I not looked at the numbers. And I think that's the one thing I'm always compelled to do as a teacher. That's why I bought a flight scope, because I wanted to see what the heck was going on. What can I do for my players that I can learn that'll make my students better? Same thing with the wedge stuff. So the PGA Tour stats is really cool. And you don't have to throw the numbers at your student. Just focus their attention to that part of their game so that they're practicing it properly and working on it.
Ready?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that you have with TV coverage is that you're looking at a particular thing. A lot of my students will look at this week's winner, and they'll come back with an impression of why they won. And then oftentimes I'll go back and show them the real stats as to why they really won. They might show them they had a great driving day or whatever, but really and truly it wasn't the reason why they won. And so I'll oftentimes compare and contrast that, and they'll show them where they really need to work on.
What is the area that you see the winners doing week in and week out? If you're looking at those numbers, what area are you seeing the most consistent difference between the guy that's doing really well in the tournament and the one that is making the cut?
Oh, they're scrambling. Okay. Yeah, 120 yards in, but even shorter than that.
Right.
More like 60 yards in.
I'm always shocked when they show like Tiger Woods. Oh, he's made 49 out of 49 putts from 10 feet in this week. Crazy. That one from 10 feet in is one that always blows me away.
And the best player in the world is going to be great from 160 yards. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they suck from that distance, right? They're pretty darn good from 160, but that's not the player that I'm dealing with all the time. I'm dealing with players that are either trying to get somewhere with their game, or they're trying to be as good as they can be at 48 years old, playing once a week and hitting balls one day a week. I can affect their score a heck of a lot more on 10 and 20 yard shots for a couple hours than I could having them hit 7 iron. Because it's just not that important. It really isn't. You can change the score much quicker by working on that distance and the driver. As a driver, you hit a drive that's in the junk and you're adding shots to your score off the tee. Obviously, the score's going to suck. But those are the two areas that I'm really focused on. So it's like 185 and above, 75 and in. Everything else in the middle, I kind of let go where it's going to go, unless I'm working on somebody's swing technically, and then I'll use 7 or 6 iron like everybody else and work on that part of the swing. So, really.
That's great. Fred Funk and Bobby Clampett both asked me. They said, what do you think I need to do to be, to make improvement? Fred feels like he hasn't been getting anything out of his game lately in the last year or so. And I said, well, let's look at your stats, Fred. Shot length, Well, check this out. From 10 to 20 feet, you got room for improvement. You're great. You're robo golfer. But 10 to 20 feet, I went through all the shot length stuff and found his point. And then Clampett was an interesting one. He asked me at Pebble a few weeks back. He goes, write down all the ways you think I need to get better. And I went to his stats, and he was between 30 and like 70 on every single stat. And I thought, this is a tough one. And I found one thing: his club head speed had gone down, and his driving distance had gone down. I said, Bobby, I wrote this night. What you do is awesome. That's when we deal with these good players. I think it's super important to go, what you're doing is awesome, and you're a pro. You're awesome. Here's where there's room for improvement. There's room for you to be even better. Wording, not like, hey, you suck at 10 to 20 footers, Fred. I can't tell him that, right?
Oh,
hey,
I would.
You might, yeah.
A totally different teaching approach, right? I'm much more straightforward.
Yeah, I got to sugarcoat a little bit still.
You're much nicer than me.
I'm a nice guy.
You are. No question. But is that changed over the years for you, Billy, from what you used to work on in terms of with your players?
The stat deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really influenced by Pell's book, the Short Game Bible, where he explained, hey, here's Tom Weiskopf and here's Tom Kite. And, you know, if you'd watch those two hit balls next to each other, you just think there's no way that Kite could compete with this guy. Yet he did pretty well. And that was one of the, like, slaps upside the head about, 15 yards and in. That's huge.
Yeah. How many are using stat programs for your teaching or for your students? Are you guys into that at all? Anybody, what are you using?
Me?
Yeah.
I use my own. I
Use your
my
own?
stats, yeah. I'll have them keep track of fairway hits, keep track of greens hit, regulation, I keep track of up and down, and keep track of putts, as well as the trouble, bunkers.
And you've been doing that for a while?
And I have them do that on a regular basis. Most of the people I work with play on a regular basis at my golf course. So I'll work with them, say, for an entire winter season, and we'll look at that probably every month, maybe every 3 weeks, and compare what he's done, how he's getting better, how he's practicing, what he's actually working on.
That sounds like a way too logical approach for most people. Because most people want to get better yesterday, right? And that would actually take some time. You know, I mean, and I have that with people. One of my girls that's out there right now, she's playing and she's frustrated she's not better in terms of her performance. And, you know, it's the LPGA Tour, so there's no shot link. You know, so I've got to get the stats from her, and we have to look at it. Before I change a bunch of stuff, I want to get some information first so I don't screw something up that actually is working. You know, and then I'm actually helping her in an area that maybe she can improve upon. So to do that, her caddy sends me after every round, and it's painstaking. You know, it's drive, right side of the fairway, 6 iron from the rough, this far from the hole. I mean, I get all the proximity to the hole numbers for every shot. I get whether it was from the fairway or the rough. I get what side it missed on. I get it all, but I have to do all that myself and there's certain apps that are great with it, Shot by Shot. I don't know if you guys have seen that. There's other ones that are really good, but I mean, if you're really concerned about that player becoming more capable of competing on a higher level, I need facts. You know, me just watching the swing from down the line and saying the face a little bit open, that's pretty incomplete. You know.
Working with better players, in the past when I worked with better players, I had them give me numbers of how many shots were inside of 30 feet, 20 feet, and 10 feet. So I used to have good players come to me and say, you know what, I hit 16 greens today. How many times you were inside of 30 feet? Well, once. Well, they're lying to themselves. You know, you got to be hitting it close. And if you're just saying you're out to hit in the middle of the open side of the green every time and leaving yourself with a 30 or 40 footer, you're not being very true to yourself. And so I would always have them up there and find out how close they were hitting, and I would break greens and regulations into 10-yard increments so they could get real.
Yeah, that's a great way to get actual facts to help your player instead of just guessing.
Yeah, I have 2 things. First, I do my greens and regulations. I have them keep 2 stats. Greens and regulation, then magic circle. So I call 20 feet the magic circle. You know, this just goes back to statistics on statistical chance of making. But I don't think I'm original. Somebody out there, somebody must do something similar to that. But I do my playing lessons in a way that relates to what you just said about people want to change. They want to change yesterday. And when I do my playing lessons, I actually take them on the golf course, and I have them take me to where they hit the drive the last time they played golf, and then take me to either on the green or on the miss, or where you missed the green, and I give them 5 chances, and I give them 5 chances to hit a good shot, and you say, and you know, basically you can see the point of this. The point is, well, here I gave you 5 chances and you still couldn't do it. Maybe this is an area of the game we need to work on. Or, you know, from the fairway, I give them 5 chances to hit a good shot from 110 yards or 80 yards or whatever it happens to be. And I said, well, you know, and hopefully in this 9 holes, they get some awareness of where their strengths and their weaknesses are, and we can actually move forward on what get them off of hitting 7 irons on
Right.
a driving range all day long.
That's more fact-based stuff than what Jeff said earlier, right? Which is they watch the same tournament you watched on TV, right? And they have some other impression about why the guy won the tournament, you know? And it was, well, he was decelerating his hips faster than the other guy through impact. That must be why he won the tournament, right? And we know it's not true. But if you can get actual numbers from your players, then you can really see where you need to work on their game, you know? And I love doing technical swing stuff. Like Billy, I have a background in the golfing machine, so nothing make me happier than talk about, you know, 24 components and the 3
Did that after.
configurations.
After the next hour.
Yeah, I mean, that's all great. I love that stuff, but I know that in the long run, it's not going to help my players unless I'm really helping them in the area that they need the specific work in. And that's, I think, the stats now, because they're available to us on ShotLink, you know, from ShotLink, and then if you can get them from your own players and get hard numbers from them over the long haul, you can really see trends and patterns develop. And I guarantee you, it'll probably be in some areas they didn't even know they were weak in. You know, and Jeff and I were looking at stuff on the way down here in terms of stats, and you know, hitting the center of the green is not a great idea if you're trying to play on the highest levels. You have to, with certain clubs, get closer to the hole. You know, because if you don't get closer to the hole, you can't make
Nicholas said he would have won 20 more majors if he had a decent wedge game.
Yeah.
He came out of his mouth in '86 when he played. Eddie Merrins talked about that when he was hitting balls when the opening of Bear Creek. I've been playing terrible. Oh, that's a little better. Oh, God. And he said this on the driving range warm-up. And he goes, God, if I could have just hit wedges, I would have won 20 more tournaments. You know, had 19 seconds. You know, so anyway, that was a interesting little factoid stat by Nicholas. I got a question for everyone. What do we think is going to happen when they take away anchoring? Anyone think side saddle is going to be more popular? No?
We got a nice little...
Oh, I missed it. What's the answer?
Got a putter and a side saddle and a way to grip it. And
Side saddle?
It looked good.
Side saddle came out big?
Yeah,
Butch was actually up on stage too.
Butch.
With Tom Anderson.
I have a player who, the kid we were talking about earlier, Brandon, who belly putted for the last 3 years, and because he was trying to make the Walker Cup team, he didn't want to have the stigma of being a belly putter guy trying to make the Walker Cup team because he thought it was going to hurt him, so he was experimenting with different putters, and it was a big challenge. But now he's using a counterbalance putter, which seems to be something a lot of guys are going to that have gone from the belly, and it seems to be a good bridge between conventional and the belly. In fact, I don't think he finds it to be a negative at all for him.
Sorry. Anyone think Adam Scott's just going to go like this and take it off? Raise your hand if you think yes. I think that's what he's going to do.
He said he was.
That's what he said.
I thought he commented that he was going to just take it off.
Yeah.
Continue the same way.
Yeah, Weeby doesn't anchor.
Whether that works or not.
Okay, I just want to know because I've been an anchor since 1989. I've been putting like this is basically a putter. My good buddy Bobby Schaefer, again, some of you know, kind of a interesting thinker. He putts like this off the toe of his putter. And he made it to USAM this year, and it was really a hoot seeing the blue coats of the USGA stand there out by the first tee just going, you know, and he's putting like this. He puts it on his neck, and he goes, off the toe, with this like a putter just like this. Think differently, and again, I think Brady and I talked about this. We're not trying to get you to think like us. We're just trying to get you to think. You know, I don't be like me. Just think.
Nobody could be Billy.
Thank you. Or you. I have one last question. I have 2 questions, and I think I'm finished for the day. What about sitting down during a lesson as a coach? Like if Brady's hitting right there, and I got this little chair, you know, and I'm kind of, because he's sort of leaned over 20-ish degrees, and I'm right here facing him. I don't know, Brady, what do you think of that? You don't have to hit balls. Will you stand there? Or
I like it.
Anyone? You like it? John likes it?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it looks lazy. I don't think that's...
Yeah, if you're like this, and if I'm like, especially like helping you pulling the balls and all that, and you're hitting and whatever, would you do this?
I wouldn't. I sit all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm inherently lazy. The last thing I want to do is stand up and on my feet for 8 hours. But if I need to get up, I get up. Yeah. But I've seen threads and Facebook groups about this topic. You know, that looks unprofessional. And look, get your player better. You know, if somebody's worried about whether you're sitting, whether your pants are creased, your collar is correct. I mean, talk about a waste of energy.
This could actually be less intimidating.
I think it
There
is.
you go.
That's why I like to play reggae, because it's more casual. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that too. Like they know I'm comfortable and I'm moving around too. Anyone here vehemently opposed to it? Feel free to Alan's vehemently opposed to it, just unprofessional looking.
Harvey Pennick did it for years, sitting in a golf cart, and you know what?
He was pretty
no
good.
one liked Harvey Pennick more. No, I mean, he's
Yeah.
the ultimate gentleman.
But I can't imagine Eddie Mehrens would ever do it. Right? I mean, so good. You get your own style. You get your style.
It's part of your brand.
Part of your brand. Yeah, I kind of have to. That's stuff.
I'd have to learn how to see everything from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Well, you're shorter all the time, but
If students don't care, then why should we?
Yeah. I mean, that's. I just want to know if any, who here sits anytime during a lesson.
Standing on that though, your
I do.
balance.
There you go. I could do some balance drills, John. Yeah. I'll stand up there. I think one more fun. Can I just get up?
Wait, Alan.
Sorry.
I have a question. Goes back to working with Jeff. So if you wanted to finish that thought.
No, go ahead, bud.
Brady, what are you working on? We all saw it. I'm not going to make him get up and hit again.
Yeah.
But what are you doing? You don't have to get up. We saw it.
The thing with Jeff, at this point, in all honesty, I don't think he's going to change his swing a whole lot now. He can improve on pieces of it, but it's who he is now. So try and keep him out of the bad spots more than anything else. I think he gets too narrow sometimes, and it makes it tough. And then he's a little steep and a little narrow. So because of that, he's going to go this way to help the club get a little further behind him and shallow out a touch. And when he does that, he's more likely to flip it. So
what do you do to help him with that?
I try and get the club a little wider at the top. For him, I want him to feel like it's pointed to the sky. There's zero hinge. For him, zero hinge is, like that. So if I can get it wider, then the transition, it can shallow out a little bit more. And then
Wider with the right arm.
Yeah, right arm's a
Feels
big
wide,
thing.
long with the right arm.
And then he can come in on a little different angle and use his pivot better. But, I'm not going to change it that much. So he knows what he needs to do, and sometimes he'll get there and he'll say, dude, can you look at this? It's awful right now. And then we look at it, and it is awful. And then we try and get it wider, and then it gets better for a while, and then he comes back, and it's the same stuff. It's typical. He's a really, really good player, and he can play under pressure, which is great, but I think, like everybody, just wants to get a little better. That's it with him.
Can I ask Billy the same question?
I decided I didn't see him. I wasn't paying that much attention to what you guys were looking at. You talking about John or about Jeff? About Jeff?
Yeah.
I might try to put it a different way. I would probably try to go get the club away from you. I mean, instead of like the arm, just trying to get as much external focus of attention as possible. Sometimes you got to get in there and give him a nudge and explain it and whatever. But like about that, I'm okay with that. I like David Tom's swing. Early. Tom Watson's a heck of a player who kind of did this. Tom Kite, KJ Choi. I don't think this
He'll never do that.
Huh?
He'll never.
No, yeah, you can
but
try
you
that.
tell him to- yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been known to get a little bit in there, a little over laggy, and I try to do that too. I'm okay with that.
And I don't mind the actual fact that it's laggy. I just don't like that it's so steep. If it was that way,
Narrow gets steep.
yeah, it gets narrow, and then he's, backing it out again. Because that helps a lot. If it's out in front of you too much, this is great. Of course, it doesn't help the bottom, but it helps that part of the swing so much. So that's it. And I find that if I've worked with somebody over a long period of time, I'm not really giving new stuff as much as feeding him up a little bit, so that he knows where to keep his focus.
I remember I posted something, you asked me a question on Facebook one time. I showed a kid and he was going within 5 minutes I got him looking really good, one left really hard. All I was telling him to do was make a ball flight a certain way. He had a hook problem and he was looking like this. And I just said, look, try to pull this down over the shortstop's head, and, but keep the face open. And suddenly he looked, like he had it all, and it looked like money, really good man hook. And he started striping it, went out, shot 66 the next day. And you could do that, but he wasn't doing it at that time when he was playing like that. So I'll try to do it with ball flight, try to back it into him, not get him even thinking about their swings the best I can. If I can do that, just do it by ball flight. Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
My hero.
Any more questions, anyone?
Thank you so much, Brady and Bill. Thank you so much to you for attending. Safe travels home. We'll see you at the Spring Teaching Summit probably in May. We will let you know.
Joe, congratulations. It's a thrill to be here in your building in this magnificent golf shop. I was kidding earlier that it's a bit like going to Nordstrom here. It's absolutely remarkable. The collaboration that must go on I'd like to hear more about that, your staff and all the people and the moving parts that make this remarkable operation happen.
Well, Jeff, it's a pleasure to be at a facility like this. I'm fortunate in that regard. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts at a facility like this, and I'm only as good as my staff is. I'm provided wonderful tools at the facility, but the staff is what makes it happen. I've got a wonderful director of retail, Patty Graham, who has a keen eye for the latest fashions and what may or may not sell in that particular season, and I give her quite a bit of leeway in making her decisions. And she has a retail team as well, 3 or 4 ladies that are instrumental in making sure that the shop always looks fresh and it's tidy and that kind of thing. And then the professional team that we have as well. Our associates on the professional side are instrumental in upselling, also recommending things that they see at other clubs that might really drive our business and things like that. We're fortunate to have our Callaway Performance Center, which really bolsters our hard goods side of things. And, it's really just a team. So to win an award like this, I almost feel somewhat guilty in taking it because it's so much of a team award. There are so many people that are such an important part in making this successful. So it's just a nice thing.
I'll tell you, you blend all of these worlds, whether it be club fitting and the hard goods side of things or the fashion side of things, seamlessly in here. And I'm excited. Driving up here, you feel as though you want to go do some shopping. And it's a wonderful atmosphere you've created. And congratulations on this great award.
Well, thanks. And that's part of what we try to do here is we want it to be a shopping experience. It's not your typical golf shop. We have a lot of different fashions.
You have succeeded.
It's very
Congratulations.
nice. Well, thank you.